A wonderful good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to see that so many made it actually in person, despite the questionable weather conditions here. I come from Germany. I'm not used to that much snow already at this time of the year, but it was beautiful to see some videos of children already playing in the snow in the gardens. That aside, I want to set the stage and the tone right for the next minutes to come by saying, I love rich media chat apps. I come from Germany, so it's probably not coming as a surprise to you that I'm using WhatsApp since, I would say, forever. Like at least for a couple of years, over a decade for sure. And it's my number one place and tool to share memories with my family and friends. I think we share every week photos, videos of birthday parties, weddings. My parents at least get a picture or video of my small son. He's about to turn 2 in January every day, so they can follow his progress. Why am I saying all of that and give that very personal introduction? I want to do that because I want to highlight that this is a channel and a tool and a place that I have very strong emotions for. I have very strong emotions associated with that app because I use that so much for these things. And these emotions are predominantly also positive. And I think that's also the primary factor why we're all here today and want to tap into the trust and these good emotions to use these chat apps for business communications. Unfortunately, I also have to say and admit that these channels, like SMS, get increasingly polluted by bad actors. So I want to do a quick survey here and ask you, who of you has received at least one phishing link or phishing attempt on SMS, WhatsApp, Viber, iMessage, RCS? Please raise your hand. Who has at least, so this, everyone. So that's basically everyone here, and I guess for you guys that are connected remotely, it's the same. Everyone has been attacked on these channels. And after setting the tone right and on a good note, I have to unfortunately say there is an elephant in the room, which means it's getting worse, right? So this is probably just the beginning. And why is that? Well, today, when you take a look at how much spending and investment there is from businesses into SMS, that's the predominant channel. And I think our industry has made big investments into protecting that channel and these consumers. You can do more, no question about that. But a lot has been invested. And it is also a channel that can be better protected because there are a few attributes of rich media channels that are different that unfortunately provide new dangers of the omnichannel user experience. First thing that I want to touch base on is rich media. Evokes strong emotions. This is also why I said I love WhatsApp and chat apps. And I also use other channels. I have friends that don't use WhatsApp where I use iMessage, and I'm now very happy to see the RCS interoperability. But pictures and visuals, videos really evoke strong emotions. And this is something that also fraudsters can abuse more, right? So it becomes much more easy to influence the victims through emotions. In addition to that, presenting corporate colors and logos also increases the trust that whoever is communicating with you is who they claim to be. So impersonation becomes a bit easier too. Now, a lot of the tools that are very effective today are actually based on content analysis. Now, if you go into these rich media applications, they're end-to-end encrypted. So you can't say content is king. You can't say, well, we protect you through scanning that, despite the fact that it's legally also not allowed in some regions. So what does that mean? It means basically that the compromised access that fraudsters are using, the sender IDs, are becoming increasingly important because of those attributes that we know from the communication. So are the identities of the victims, right? Like if somebody has been attacked recently, like you know who has been attacked if you do forensics and analysis of this. Another very important aspect, is that it gives more attack vectors to fraudsters. It means that drift or a multi-channel attack, which is increasingly confusing victims, is also an additional factor to consider. So what do we do about this, right? So what can we do as an industry following on what we have done so far on SMS as well? I say we need a practical solution very soon by the industry for the industry. And I would say that will include cooperation across channels, across verticals, and across industries to fight compromised accounts and shut down fraudsters and the compromised accounts that they're using holistically. And ideally, that solution is a solution that is agile to correctly and quickly respond to the fast changing and adopting fraudsters. This is it, with me being negative, so ramping back up the good mood here. So we have, at Netnumber, that's the company that I work for, have looked at that since a while now, and we have worked with a lot of partners to develop a way on how we can elevate what we're doing today for fighting against fraud. I think it's in this summer where we talked first about this in public, that we have a fraud prevention registry that is a solution by the industry where industry players come together to cooperate on sharing phone numbers involved in fraud. And this is a community of carriers, CPaaS players, but also other sources and participants. One I'm actually allowed to name, which is WMC Global, who I like to refer to as they do forensics on SMS fraud and other things. And you can get access to this data as well. What's in it? Where does the data come from? And what data do we have there, right? So there are various use cases that we have picked to kick it off with and where we have seen already results in. So a lot of the financial institutions were looking for a place to turn to and process their consumers, their customers' complaints, right? So their customers get defrauded, and then they complain to the bank, and the banks don't have a place to turn to. Like, that has changed now. Carriers, I think that's more or less obvious, but there is another very important element that I want to highlight, which is data breaches, right? So we have a lot of intelligence on data breaches where our information has been leaked. Like, there are some password managers that tell you if you enter your website and your account credentials that that account has been found on fraudsters' websites as being compromised, so you should actually change your password. Like, why is that only in these password apps? Why is our industry not using these things? Considering the time, I quickly want to refer to two examples of where this is being used and where this can be extremely helpful. One for sure is financial institutions. So when you have learned that some of your customers' account data has been compromised, it would be very wise of you to say, okay, let's start a campaign to these potential victims or known leaked data accounts to tell them to reset everything or potentially even enforce it. You can also advertise to activate 2FA if they haven't done it yet. So that's a very good campaign that you can do. Similar thing applies to any e-commerce or online store, any brand that has retail or online community for sure. Yeah, and now you can say, this is awesome, Marco. I want to join. Can I? Yes, and there are various options. There are some players that participate just by contributing data, either because they know they want to make the world a better place, or because they want to monetize their data and say this is extremely valuable. I think the industry will profit from this. There are others that say, I just need the data to protect my users, my customers, which is also a fair option. And the last partnership model would be for participants that want to do both. It's about half of the participants that actually do both. So if you're interested, I'm going to stick around, but first I'm taking a few questions and answers here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marcos. Yeah.
Hi, Mette.
Yeah. So, we're going to do a bit of fireside chat. I know we have like about 10 minutes, and I'll open for a Q&A after this. But I think my first questions to you is, you're proposing this approach of a fraud prevention registry, which is a way to fight fraud. Now, maybe can you elaborate further, explain how the collaboration between telecom providers, financial institutions, and other sectors work in practice?
Yeah. So first, I unfortunately have to say that's not a proposal. This is in effect today. So it's live since almost a year now. So that's a reality. So the integration of those guys is a very interesting process, right? Because when we talk to our partners in this community, we typically have two kinds of profiles. We have ones that said, oh, we get it. So they get it immediately and they want to participate. And then we have others that are a little bit more reluctant and say, like, what's in it for me, right? And with both, we need to have conversations around what is it that they can actually contribute. Because although this sounds very nice, this is not a place where you can just use any data, right? It's very important that the signals that are being fed into this fraud prevention registry are very hard signals. So they have to be confirmed attacks. They have to be confirmed victims or attackers. Plus, we need to also know what was the fraud scenario to correctly act on the information that was put in there. And the way this works is that the information gets put into the fraud prevention registry by a method of choice, which is either real-time provisioning through an API or through a file upload. This can sometimes be a bit easier for some of the brands and banks. And then the data is being processed and can be consumed in real time. And there is, of course, also a conversation around what data should you have access to when you are participating in this fraud prevention registry, right? Not every data is of use for you. So the cooperation here is really a cooperation and a collaboration on a needs to know and relevance basis.
Okay. And I want to kind of maybe extend to that. I mean, I think the registry as you have it today, focus on real-time data sharing. And so how does this impact, carriers, aggregators who are consuming the data? I mean, how do they integrate this information into their existing fraud system today? So how does that work?
Yeah. If there are existing fraud prevention mechanisms, that's perfect because they then have a good hook. But first of all, I want to say that there are various applications on how you can use that, right? Probably one thing that comes to mind immediately because of this industry is just feed that data into the whatever network you operate, into your spam filters, spam protection, anti-fraud platforms, whatever you might have installed. But I think on the other hand, what is also very important, there is also victim data, right? So you also have phone numbers of potential victims. And that is something that is being more processed by the CRM departments or customer engagement tools that you have to then start awareness campaigns or to start reaching out to your customers and instructing them on how they can make their accounts more secure or how to educate them. So these are personalized campaigns then.
Okay, so I think you mentioned about this is an omnichannel solution, so not just SMS. So I'm going to maybe talk about how does it apply to RCS. The fraudsters use phone numbers. So just to kind of take a bit of a specific use case here. The fraudsters use phone number as an identity for impersonation. Now, how can the telecom industry, better protect the sender and receiver phone numbers? I mean, especially as we move into the complex from SMS to RCS.
Yeah. So I think one important factor here is that so far there has been a lot of focus on registering brands' identities and business identities through registering their actual brands as alphanumeric sender IDs on SMS, right? But what we have seen then is that whilst these access types get shut down by the existing solutions, fraudsters then turn around and say, okay, what other access methods to the messaging ecosystems can I abuse? So if we translate that, for example, to RCS, I would say if Google is doing an extremely good job in vetting the brands and keeping the RBM channel clean, right? I don't see any reason why the fraudsters shouldn't then say, okay, then I just turn to the P2P channel and go to RCS and try to infiltrate there and find weaknesses. Specifically with the increasing interoperability, I think this is becoming an increasing challenge to then say, okay, who is in charge of protection? Who is in charge of registering these digital identities and protecting them? So I think that including long numbers and telephone numbers into the fraud protection and also into the registration of digital identities is extremely important, right? Our product suite has detected that for SMS for a longer time now. And we have dedicated solutions to also register and prevent long numbers from being abused in the SMS space in North America. But I think this is a shift that we definitely have to anticipate and keep in mind.
Right, and I think you mentioned about my next question is on availability. I think today I believe it's available for +1, and so I think the question is that who can use and the +1 obviously is not available beyond +1. So can you expand on how can aggregators, enterprise, telecom providers use this database today?
Yeah, sure. So the data is available and is intended today to protect the North American messaging ecosystem with regards to SMS and MMS. But there is no technical limitation. So we run a global network based on the AWS backend and AWS cloud. So we can take that solution and bring it anywhere. It is also flexible in terms of what attributes you can provision, right? So, and what use cases you can provision. So there is currently today no reason why this cannot be extended into other geographies. First of all, for us in terms of growth, obviously, and making this more impactful is to get more participants in the existing solutions. But we are also conversations in other geographies where sharing that data is possible from a regulatory standpoint. Unfortunately, I'm not a general counsel or legal counsel, so I can't say do that or do that not in certain geographies. But we have also conversations to extend that into other channels, like, for example, RCS, where phone numbers or WhatsApp, where phone numbers are still the primary identifier, specifically also for victims, right? If you had a customer engagement strategy on WhatsApp, you still use the phone numbers of your customers to address them. So if you know that these phone numbers and some of their accounts had been compromised, it is wise to reach out to them and run campaigns about awareness and security trainings.
Yeah, noted. So I think we have 2 minutes. I want to open the floor to any questions.
There is one online that I would like to ask, if I may.
Sure, please.
So, Alok Moria is asking, how the Netnumber FPR different from other IRSF number database which are managed and updated regularly by operators?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I don't want to sound too negative about existing solutions. So I want to focus on what we do, what we think is extremely important, by saying that we're not updating frequently, but that is a system that runs in real time. Otherwise, you would miss certain drifts or attacks, and you wouldn't be fast enough. Right? Some attacks are being done so quickly on multiple accounts, you have to be like real time. Like you can't afford to just update daily or whatever. Another thing is that the data that is being ingested is vetted. So it's not that you can just contribute whatever, but the data that is ingested is vetted. So these are hard signals that you know that you can act on. What else do we have in terms of differences? Oh, well, yes. IRSF is basically just one use case. It's international revenue share fraud. What we're doing is we focus more on, today, on consumer damages rather than international revenue share fraud. But we also allow to tag what fraud scenario was actually happening. So it's not just limited to one use case.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we are running out of time. Thanks again, Dr. Marco Lafrentz.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you.